Hello students! Welcome to Lab 8 for Physical Geography 2. We're going to be talking today about soil textures. Alright, so in your lab manual on page 67, you will find the beginning of the soil textures lab. And we're going to talk a little bit about these as we've already spoken a little bit about rocks. We've gotten into the rock cycle from igneous, we've talked about sedimentary and a little bit about metamorphic. But this ties into very closely the sedimentary lab. And the sedimentary rocks lab is all about the weathering and breaking down of rocks. And we know this. We have discussed how sedimentary rocks can be physically and chemically weathered, and then they break down, and through transportation, deposition, and lithification, it creates new rocks. But along this process of breaking down rocks into smaller pieces, we have soils. And soils are what happens when you break down rock to its baser components. This is done through the process of physical and chemical weathering. Okay, and if you're following along on page 67, we begin by talking about regolith. Regolith, and it mantles the majority of the land surface of the Earth. So basically, what this means is this is the area of the Earth that is covered by this broken down rock, right? And occasionally it will expose bare bedrock. This will occasionally happen. Okay, so the process of breaking down these rocks turns them into soils. Now there are various types of soils. Depending on where you go, here in Alabama, our soil tends to be very red and tends to have a lot of, be very acidic in nature, where sometimes if you go towards, let's say, the Midwest, you will find darker, richer soils. And this happens because here in the South, we get more moisture, which takes a lot of minerals out of the soil and leaves you with this reddish kind of ferrous look to them, where areas that have darker, more dynamic soils, this occurs because while it is still broken down material, it is not wet enough to remove and dilute that soil, and it allows things to actually grow inside of it. Okay, so I want you to turn to page 68. Turn to page 68, and you will see a chart. You will see a chart. This chart will look familiar. So in your class, we had asked you to break down the various sizes of particles of rocks, right? You remember gravel, sand, silts, and clays. But here we have it broken down just a little bit farther. And when you look at that a little bit more closely, you see areas where soils can start to form. There are three types of grains that we talk about when we talk about soils. We talk about clays, silts. If you've noticed that these are also on the chart on page 69, and sand. These three particle sizes make up the majority of our soils. And you will see on page 69, and here's where this triangle, this graph of these three separate particle sizes and how they interact with each other will make up the majority of what's left of this lab. And what you will do is you will read this chart based on percentages. You will see that it goes from 10 to 100 on one side and then back down the other. And what you will do is you will find that some soils are in places in between those. They are made of various parts of sands, various parts of silts, and they are mixed together. And some of these mixtures have better output in terms of crops or growth and so on. Their ability to support life in the biosphere, which is the every living thing on the surface of the planet. Anyway, okay. So what you're going to do is from here and in your lab, you are going to use this chart. You're going to use this chart, and you will be asked to, looking ahead at your turn-in assignment, you will be asked to take a percentage, like 75% sand, 10% silt, and 15% clay, and then ask where that falls. within the chart. So what you're going to do is when you read a chart like that, you're going to look and you're going to give it the first value it gives you. So 75% sand means you're going to go to the bottom of that chart, the bottom of the chart on page 70, or 69, sorry, and you're going to go find where that percentage is. And then you're going to work up or even over and farther into the triangle from there and see what it is called. There is another method on here. It talks about determining textural class by the finger method. We are not going to do that, as we are probably not going to go outside and do this, and given that there is nothing about that in the lab, I'm not going to really waste your time with it. So that said, be sure this chart is important. You will see it on the final. You will see this chart on the final. So be sure that you understand both how this chart works, okay, and how it interacts with the other, the sands, the silts, and the clays, how they interact with one another, and be sure that you understand what the three are. This will probably be a test question in the future. What are the three particle sizes that make up the majority of our soils in our soil chart? I didn't say clays, silts, and sands. All right, so short and sweet. That's it. Good luck. Like and subscribe.